it's very much in our genes that you would always love to listen to a story. There is so much happening with the storytelling.
Do you think there is a particular genre of books that are used in therapy? Or is it a person's preference?
Like maybe it's too much for them to handle right now. They can take a break, use that as a distraction. Maybe after that come back and actually talk and deal with what is happening with them.
Welcome to Tales and Talks. I am your host Alia Sheikh. In today's episode, we will be speaking about books and its benefits with our guest, Miss Rithu Paul, who is a psychology professor. Ma'am, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please
Thank you,
tell
Alia.
us more about yourself.
So hi, I'm Rithu and I'm a mental health professional. I'm also a researcher and I'm also a psychology educator. So I mainly do work in psychology based in positive psychology and well-being. So that's my area of interest and I mainly work with school mental health.
So, ma'am, you told you like reading books, right? So, what genre of books do you like reading?
So as a person, I generally love reading and I've touched upon many genres. So if you personally ask me any particular genre, I'm not sure. I usually into existential reading, so books of Albert Camus, Friedrich Nietzsche and all of them. So that's my usual interest that I go for.
Do you think there is a particular genre of books that are used in therapy?
I don't
Or
think...
is it a person's preference?
So I think it's a subjective thing to ask because if I'm a reader and I like fiction more than non-fiction, so it's a world that I would prefer reading and being there with the character, and it's a third person and everything. But in terms of, let's say, a person who's reading non-fiction, so when you compare it to them and me asking them to read a book of fiction, that's way away for them from reality. So that creates that space for them and they don't want to be there. So it's again a subjective thing for them. It's a subjective experience of the book. I think more than the genre or more than fiction, non-fiction, it's about the person and how they personally experience the book. So that's where I think it helps them as an individual with their well-being and mental health.
So there are some people who read crime thrillers.
Yes.
And they find it very, it's a coping mechanism.
All right.
So what is your point of view on that?
It's a coping mechanism. One thing, I love reading crime thrillers. I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie, and my favorite is And Then There Were None. I don't know if you've read that. So it takes you through this. Okay, the story is very simple. Like, I don't want to give out any spoilers or anything. It's murders that are happening in an island, and everybody gets killed. So anyway. So how it happens, what happens. So as a coping mechanism, any book can be a part of a coping mechanism. In terms of only particularly crime thrillers, I don't think so. I think why people are engaged in crime thrillers is mainly because it's very analytical, right? You're constantly thinking, so it is engaging your frontal lobe. You're like, there's character A, character B, character C. Who could be the killer? This has happened, this scene has happened, they spoke like this, they spoke like that. So there's a lot of things happening. You might not realize it until and unless you're thinking about it, like you're doing a metacognition there, like you're thinking like, oh, this is why it is happening. So it's your frontal lobe that's engaged. So coming back to your question of, is just crime thrillers a coping mechanism? Honestly, no, because because fantasy is another thing that really also helps you cope, because that's a real complete escape from reality. So it takes you to that whole magical world. So I think it's not just crime thrillers.
Okay. Next question is, how does reading compare to other forms of therapy like meditation and mindfulness?
All right. So when it comes to reading and, let me talk about mindfulness and meditation. So mindfulness is mainly bringing you to the present, right? Currently we are sitting here, I'm talking to you, you're listening to me. So these are all making you aware of your presence here currently. So that's more of connecting deeper within your soul, right? It's bringing to your presence here. Similar to meditation, your concentration and everything is here. On the other hand, if you look at books, it takes you to a different world. That is the one comparison. But on the whole, they both help you in the reduction of stress. They help you in terms of positive emotions, in invoking positive emotions, self-exploration, and understanding of self-efficacy and all of those aspects of you as a person. So comparing them to other forms, I think meditation and mindfulness are a very strong practice that is used in different therapy forms. Reading is more a pleasure activity, so it leans more towards that. But like you said, it again depends on how you're using it in your therapy. But mostly mindfulness and meditation is something we use often to help with anxiety and depression and all of that.
Now, does reading impact long-term emotional intelligence and empathy?
Definitely, it does, because you are engaging with the characters, right? Now the characters, why do you like some books and why don't you like the other books? Can you tell me, Alia?
Because some have like a very specific way of storytelling,
Okay,
and some are like not in an order that I want.
all right.
So sometimes it gets confusing to follow
All
with the
right.
book. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing with storytelling, one thing with why you like certain characters is because you relate to them. There is something in the character, there is some essence of that character that's making you feel something. Have you ever cried reading a book?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
So in that case, my question is, why don't you cry for all the books? You don't
Because
do that.
we don't feel the character.
Exactly. So in the long run, let's say you're reading books that really is helping you understand, bringing you self-awareness and making you connect with people around you, right? See, now books is again, reading books connects you with people. It builds your social relationships. It helps you connect better, understand ideas, communicate better, right? Your vocabulary improves. So all these aspects starts to play out when you read. So your ideas, the way you form ideas, the way you speak about things, the way you put across something, it really helps you with your reading.
How does brain respond to storytelling? Like you talked about front lobe,
Yes,
like how
yes,
it was.
yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of storytelling, okay, you tell me who's there in this world who doesn't like stories.
No one.
Okay, it's very much ingrained in our cells, it's very much in our genes that you would always love to listen to a story. There is so much happening with the storytelling. Okay, so I was reading about a study on how children, small children, they were reading about they were reading about stories from the books. They have these colored books with like small sentences and everything. So they were reading that to, the study was mainly that to a storyteller. Like, so a person is telling them the story to them versus them reading the story. So so what they found out, the researchers found out, is that there's a much higher brain stimulation with the storytelling because you're engaging with actions. There is emotions coming there. There is an interaction happening there. So there's a lot of in psychology we look at socio-emotional learning. So when with children, do you think children understand big words and big sentences? No.
Not really.
They understand your emotion. They understand how you interact and relate to them. So storytelling is a way for them to create that space, to understand emotions, to build that sense of who they are, and they're small, right? So first 5 years of your life is very important. So they learn how to talk, how to speak, how to express these emotions. So in that way, storytelling becomes a big part of how your brain understands to how your brain remembers, right? You would rather remember a story than what you read.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You remember that story elaborately, how it's like movement and all of that. So that's the thing with storytelling. It's a very powerful tool. It's used a lot in schools as well. So like even now, if you still think of, you will definitely remember the crow and the water story. Yeah. See, I just had to give you keywords and you remember the story, right?
Yes.
So that's the power of story. It has a lot of things that it captures that stays with your mind and memory. It plays a big role with your memory as well.
So connected to this, there is a relation between psychology and literature, which is bibliotherapy.
Yes.
So what is it exactly?
So bibliotherapy has its roots from psychoanalysis, Freud's theory, and it stems from a place of understanding how reading a book can be therapeutic. So one way to look at it, Aristotle has spoken about catharsis. It's the way to engage, like when you're relating to the character. Sometimes when you pick up a book and you're reading something, what happens is you relate very closely to the character because that's what is happening with you, right? That in itself is very therapeutic. So what happens there is, in terms of therapy, right? Bibliotherapy, it's not used extensively in terms of only that as a therapy. It is used in collaboration with CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and other forms of therapy. That really integrates. Now let's say there's a person who engages in a lot of reading. We can use that as a tool to actually help them with the process of therapy, go through them with that journey and help them heal through that. Because a lot of self-healing, self-actualization by Maslow and everything, to be a better human being, to be a potential human being, can start from there. So that's how bibliotherapy relates to you and all of that.
So there are some downsides
Yes.
to escaping into these books.
Yes.
So, like, what do you think is another option, or what do you have to speak about that?
Downsides so a lot of them, what I've seen is, once let's say there's a difficult situation or there is a stressful situation, they run back to their books and they're just engaged, they're just concentrating only on that. So in a way, like again going back to theories of positive psychology, right, and virtues. So everything in moderation is good for you. So anything above or anything below that is going to be harmful for you. So in the similar way, when you engage in books and you use that as a escapism, it becomes problematic there, because you're not handling your stressful situations, like you're not in front of it, or you're not facing that situation, you're just escaping, you're just running away from it as much as you can through fantasy. So that's not going to help you really address the issue that's right at hand. It can be a good thing to start off with, like maybe it's too much for them to handle right now. They can take a break, use that as a distraction. Maybe after that come back and actually talk and deal with what is happening with them currently. So that's something that has to be taken care of even when you're going through therapy. That's something that, let's say now bibliotherapy itself, let's say the therapist is using that and only relies on that, and both of them feel very disconnected because all they're doing is reading books and talking about it. What is happening in the therapy? What is happening with the client? Right? So we need to think on those lines when we think of reading, and don't just do it because you want to escape. In moderation, that's great, but if you keep doing it for just escaping everything, there'll be a point where you'll have to face it.
It was a very interesting and engaging conversation. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And it is a pleasure to have you on the couch.
Thank you, Alia. And it was a pleasure for me to be here as well. I'm grateful for Bhavana and the entire team to putting this together. And thank you, Alia, for your really fun and engaging questions that you had. And I think that's it from me. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Today, I learned more about psychology and how reading is connected to psychology, and how it helps our mental health, and how we have an escape mechanism. And with that, I would like to conclude our third episode.